Are you a franchisor, whether early or established, looking for tips and tricks and fresh new ideas on taking your franchise company to the next level? I'm Angela Cote, and I call myself a franchise growth catalyst. I use my experience having grown up in the world of franchising, spending many years on the franchisor side of the franchise relationship, lots of time out in the field supporting franchisees, and then 18 years myself as a multi-unit franchisee. I'm super passionate about creating transformational impact to help franchise companies grow. If you are looking for ideas, we talk about anything from franchisee recruitment, how to find the best franchisees that are going to be the top performers in your brand, to how to support them to really optimize their output. We are more than open to hearing ideas and questions and suggestions. So reach out to me at angela@angelacote.com. Alrighty, let's get started with the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast. Hello, Angela Cote here, and I'm back with another episode of the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast. For today's episode, I wanted to provide some value for both franchisors and franchisees, and really any business owner feeling a little stumped right now on how to do networking and prospecting despite the restrictions we are experiencing due to the pandemic. So this would be for franchisors looking to find new franchisees, and for franchisees and any small business owners who want some inspiration on how to find customers or clients. And this really should apply to both sort of B2B and business to consumer type businesses. So let's see what we can figure out here. You know, a lot of our usual ways are of networking and prospecting and building valuable business relationships are just not available right now. You know, such as like networking events, which would include conferences, business mixers, in-person seminars, and that sort of thing. Also, we don't have the opportunity to go to trade shows and expos right now to find franchisees or potential clients, awards dinners, you know, all these things. So it's just really important to remember that there are other ways to reach our customers and clients despite the pandemic. And I've been really blessed because I've been hosting franchisor roundtables and various other roundtables since the pandemic hit in March. And I've been really getting to hear a lot of cool things people are doing. And again, some on the front line and some is ideas that franchisors are doing in finding franchisee prospects. So this is not an all-encompassing list here. I just sat down and thought I'd brainstorm alone for 10 minutes before this podcast to come up with some ideas. It's probably not going to be mind-blowing and like rocket science when you hear it. But the idea is I just want to get your wheels turning a little bit and help you see that you're not stuck. You know, there's definitely a lot of ways out there that we can reach our target. And, you know, if I can come up with this many ideas just on my own, imagine if you brought your team together and did some brainstorming to try to figure out some ways to reach your prospects. And remember, I always say doing something is better than nothing. So as you're listening to this, be careful that you don't try to just think, oh, I'll just do all of this. Because usually when we do that, what ends up happening is we get kind of overwhelmed and don't do anything. And analysis leads to paralysis. So as you're listening, you know, think through or listen for what things sound like that really make sense for your business and pick 2 or 3 things to focus on so that you can focus on those things and try to get them right and then measure to see the impact they're having. If they're having a good impact and you're happy with the results, then stick to what's working. Or if they're not, shift to something new and then measure the results of that thing. So we'll jump in here with some ideas. Again, not rocket science. You're going to be like, yeah. But hopefully if you stick with me, you'll start to see that there will be something in here for you that is going to help you get closer to your clients and customers and prospective franchisees in a way that, you know, you may not be doing right now. So I'm going to start with one of the most obvious ones, and this is social media. Oh yeah, I said it. If you are prospecting for on the business to business level or B2B, which would include, of course, franchisors looking for franchisees potentially, but other businesses that are reaching out to get business from fellow businesses, then LinkedIn is your go-to platform. It is awesome to see how much LinkedIn has changed, not just because of COVID, but even prior to that, where it's really become the platform for networking. It's no longer just about a place you go to get a job. So if you're thinking of LinkedIn, I'm going to give you a couple tips in a second, but keep that in mind for the business to business more than anything. If you're more of a business to consumer type business, whether that's retail or, a fitness business, wellness of any sort, salons, beauty, probably Facebook or Instagram is going to be more effective for you if you're looking, for those frontline customers. But your business. So just make sure that you are thinking through where you should be spending your most time and energy. And yeah, there's people out there that will say be on all the platforms. And I do think it's good to be on all the platforms, but if you're going to dilute yourself and not do as good of a job because you're doing all the platforms, I would recommend picking like your top 3 personally, or getting some help with it so somebody else can help you spread it across all of the platforms. But the point with the social media is to really get into organic posting, because if your target looks you up, you or your business up, they're going to be trying to figure out what you're up to these days and whether you're staying current and whether you're even still in business. So they might hear about you a different way and go look you up. And if you're a franchisor and you're looking for franchisees and the last time you posted was like 9 months ago or 3 months ago, even, they might think, oh, this person's not very active on here. Maybe they're not actually selling franchises right now. Or if it's, on Facebook and your business hasn't posted in a period of time that, makes it look like, well, maybe they went out of business. So be really careful about that. You want to stay current. Really do not overthink it. What you're putting out there, again, better to do something than nothing. Obviously, you don't want to do anything that's going to damage your brand. Or if you're a franchisee, you do need to stay within your brand guidelines. But I think that's the biggest roadblock people have is that they kind of overthink what they're posting. Definitely personal pages get a lot more traction than any type of business page. So on LinkedIn, make sure you're using your your personal page to build your network. I do the same for Facebook and Instagram as well. And so one little tip I have for you beyond just posting organically in social media is that instead of getting sucked into mindlessly just scrolling the feed and sort of hoping you'll come across some prospects, if you've got prospects on social media, I would really recommend going directly to say like 5 prospects per day, 5 different prospects every day, and engaging with their posts. So whether that's going and liking or ideally commenting on their post just to kind of stay in front of them in a tactful way, not a salesy way, of course, but just, saying something about what you're seeing so that they can see you and just kind of staying in front of them. That's going to help build trust so that if you do at some point kind of ask for a conversation or ask for their business, that they've already kind of seen you and you didn't go straight for the ask. So you're building some trust first. And I wouldn't go to the same 5 prospects every day. I would probably mix it up and do like 5 a day. So over the course of the week, maybe you've engaged with 25 different prospects. So those are some quick tips on social media. There's a zillion more things I could say about that. And maybe that would be a good podcast in itself, but I'll leave it at that to get your wheels turning on that one. Also, on the note of social media, Facebook groups. Facebook groups, I can't say enough about how much trust there is in these groups. And that's because they are not a place for promotion. So you've got to be very careful that you don't go into a Facebook group and get promotional. You want to be in there sharing relevant content to the group and just interacting with people. And again, building trust, building relationships. Now, if it doesn't make sense for you personally to be in the group, because say it's like a mom's group and you're not a mom, then think about whether there's an employee that, just loves being on social media that could do that for you on your behalf and just be in there, representing the brand, or even a top customer who already acts like an ambassador for your brand, who could maybe go into a Facebook group once a week and network for you and strategically mention your business. It's going to have a lot more weight coming from a customer or client or a fellow or a franchisee that's already in your business, for example. And, just keep in mind that it's all about trust and that you are only going to get out of it what you put into it. So joining a group and then just doing nothing is not going to work, obviously. All right, so let's move on. Next one is emailing or phoning old leads. Personally, I prefer email or texting them, even if you've got that kind of a relationship or you had it in the past. If you've got some old or cold leads, whatever you want to call them in your database that you haven't connected with in a while, I am a big fan of reaching out, keeping in mind that things might have changed for them since you last spoke, especially because people's lives are changing a lot these days with the pandemic. And I really recommend doing some custom one-on-one reach outs. I'm not against doing mass emails with your mailing service, whatever that is, MailChimp or whatever you use. That is also good, but I really highly recommend doing some custom one-on-one reach outs. So maybe you pick like a number and you say like, I'm going to reach out to 3, past, so what we used to call them at M&M Meat Shops, we called them lapsed customers. So that would be like customers that used to shop with us. If it's B2B and they maybe weren't actually a customer yet, but sort of an engaged prospect, like reach out to 3 of those per day or 2 per day or whatever makes sense. If we're talking B2B, again, an email works great. Hey, I haven't seen you for a while. Just thought you just popped into my mind. Thought I'd reach out and check in, see how you're doing. When we last spoke, you were talking about, blah, 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 whatever you've got, hopefully in a CRM of some sort that you could mention. Whether that's just something, you're showing them that you were listening to them, or maybe it's something to do with why you were having conversations. Like they were thinking about becoming a franchisee of your business, or they were thinking about, say they were thinking about getting their carpets cleaned and they decided to hold because they didn't want people in their house. And you could reach out and say like, hey, just wondering if you ever got your carpets cleaned. We'd love to have you, use our services and we're going to offer you a promotion, 10% off or something. But reaching out to those old leads, if you're retail, what we used to do at M&M Meat Shops is we'd actually send out postcards to 10 of our lapsed, like sort of top lapsed customers, or 30 of them. And we would handwrite a message saying, hey, we haven't seen you for a while. Love to see you back. If you come back and show us this postcard, we'd love to give you a 10% discount just so that we can then track our efforts and see whether it made sense to send it. But that personal handwritten note just goes so far. So think about if there's something you can do to reach back out to those people that you had some interest from in the past. Next up is one of my favorites, and that is that can you host some kind of a free roundtable to bring your audience together? If not a roundtable because you can't figure out how to do that, at the very least, maybe like a virtual presentation. Try to think about what expertise you can share with your target audience. So, for example, at M&M, we used to host like a cocktail evening in person, and we would teach people how to host a party. What number of appetizers they should order per guest. What was a good way to order to serve the appetizers they were buying from us. So we were providing, content and expertise with them to really build the trusting relationship. Could you maybe host a free roundtable where you get people together to talk about, say that was the business, where you talk about how to host parties for the Christmas season, or maybe you have, if it's in the health and wellness, could you host roundtables with your target audience on how to stay healthy throughout the holidays? How to keep your mindset in check, or whatever it is. Can you bring people together and deliver some kind of content where it's actually the group coming together? Personally, I'm a big fan of roundtables because I really believe so much in the collective wisdom of the group. So it's not so much that you're providing the content, but rather the topic, I should say, and then the platform for people to connect on at a time when people are just missing this so much. So if you do decide to go with the roundtable route, I will say it takes a little bit of facilitation skills, which I learned the hard way, but I don't regret. It takes some facilitation skills to get people talking. And that's something we teach here at AC Inc. We're super passionate about. Just make sure that you go in with some clarity on, how you're going to get people to talk, because if everybody shows up and they're not collaborative, it can sort of bomb. You could do a presentation instead, but keeping in mind that when you put people into present mode, they're going to sit back and listen versus often it's a little harder to get people collaborating. I really like the idea of getting peers to learn from each other. and not be counting on me to provide the content. Even though I might have the content, I just really like to get people collaborating. So hopefully that's sparked up some ideas for you, if that makes sense in your industry, to do some kind of a roundtable of some sort, or happy hours or anything like that. Which segues into the next point, which is similar, but I'm going to say it's a little different. And that is to host an online event. So is there some kind of an event you can host? And again, I talked about, like at M&M, we used to do in person, but now you could do for your customers an event on, how do you juggle being a party host with cooking the food you're going to cook? If you are, you could host an event where you are bringing different experts in with panelists and things. I guess this is sounding a lot like the previous point I made. I'm thinking of a good friend and client of mine, Robert Bruschi, who his company, Good Company Productions, hosts a concert in a box event, or hosts a concert, I guess, virtually. And when you sign up, you get sent a concert in a box, which has some goodies and things that you're going to open and use during the concert. So might have some type of cocktails in it or snacks that you can use during the concert. So is there something that you can host an event and send something to the participants to make it special? I guess that's the difference between what I'm saying. The roundtables are very casual, whereas the online event's very more prescribed. Next, another one of my favorites is to create content. So think again about what expertise you have. And if you haven't been doing this, remember that people are really on social media more than ever these days. And I really recommend you going big on this. This can be anything from sharing third-party articles where you add in your 2 cents. So like maybe you put an article on your social media platform, whichever one makes the most sense for your audience. And you say, what particularly resonated with me is this point about, blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts? And then, you post that, or you ask even more direct of a question of your audience to try to get some engagement in the content or comments, because that engagement is going to drive it to land in more people's feeds and get you more exposure. You can share your own content if you're more comfortable, or if you're comfortable enough to do that, which is fantastic, in written form or in video format, or whatever works for you. And I really encourage you to not overthink this. When I first thought, I've got to write a blog, the idea of a blog always worried me and made me feel like, I've got to write a blog. There's a prescribed way to do it. But when I realized a blog, all I really am trying to do is get my voice out there. And that's why it actually went from written posts to videos, because I'm a lot more comfortable speaking than I am writing. So stop thinking that it needs to be this prescribed format. It doesn't need to be a perfectly polished written blog or perfectly polished article. It can be just a little post, whatever it is. And what else is something that I found is it doesn't need to be unique. It just needs to be you, and it needs to show what you know. Because if they stumble across you, or they are already exploring using your services, it boosts your credibility when they seek you out and look you up and find that you know what you know. So it might be something that's already out there, but you're the one they land on. So don't worry that don't think it has to be the unique and the only one that's saying it. Also, you can figure out what podcasts your audience might be listening to, and then reach out to get on one of those podcasts. Reach out to the podcast host and offer them, I've got some content. Here's an example. Don't just say, hey, I'd like to be on your podcast, but actually submit to them, here's the value I could bring. I could talk about the top 3, whatever might be relevant to their audience. And just remember that the more free PR you get, the more free PR you will get. So it's like a snowball effect. I found that the very first podcast I was on, which was totally nothing to do with my audience, but I knew it would be good to just get it going. Again, don't overthink it. Action equals growth. Get on a podcast, and it would give me practice in talking about my story. And I could then show the next podcast I reached out to, podcast host, that I've been on this podcast. And then, it's snowball affected. There was a snowball effect, I guess I'll say, from there, that led to many, many podcasts and articles I've been featured in, which is exactly what I'm talking about. And remember that getting this content, again, it's not like, oh, you've got to get on only the perfect podcast that has the ton of listeners, because it's about building trust. Again, when they come to your social media page or your website and see that you've been interviewed on a number of podcasts or written different articles, it builds that trust. Okay, moving on to the next one. And this is reaching out to your network of fans. So this is reaching out to people that are, whether it's friends and family, your current employees, your current franchisees, if you're trying to find more franchisees, your vendors that love you. I'm sure you can think of one or two, or your current customers or clients that are really behind you. They're really cheering you on and excited to see you grow. So with what I do with this is I recommend you start with your mission. What are you on a mission to do? What is your mission statement of your company? So for me and my team, we are on a mission to create transformational growth in everyone we interact with while having fun. So when I reach out to somebody, I can reach out to somebody in my network, and again, whether just family, friends, employees, vendors, whatever, and say, hey, who do you know that might need some help with growing their business or might feel a little bit roadblocked, that you could connect me with? I'd love to have your help with our mission, or you'd be helping us with our mission of creating transformational growth in everyone we interact with while having fun. And so they feel that there's a sense of purpose. If whatever your mission is, bring that into it. On top of that, you can absolutely also offer a financial incentive or some kind of a gift incentive so that they feel like it's worth their time. But remember that if they're in your fan network, they're excited just to see the company grow. So whether that's finding you more franchisees or finding you employees or finding you customers, they're likely to be able to help you out. But I do love the idea of throwing in the purpose and the incentive. But the idea here is you just got to stay in front of your opportunities, whether that's, I guess, in this point of reaching out to your fans or any of the things I'm talking about for that matter. We've got to stay in front. Don't assume. Here's the problem. People assume that their friends or family would already be on the lookout for that, but unfortunately, they're probably not. So you need to remind them, so maybe you make a plan to do this like once a week. You block out some time in your calendar that you're going to do this, where you reach out to like five fans, again, from each category or whatever that is. Next, and this is the last one that I've got for you today. And again, I know these are probably not sounding like rocket science, but hopefully good reminders and hopefully inspiring you. And this one's going to sound a little bit like the last one, but it is different. And that is connecting with your peers. So peers that might have the same target audience as you, but offering a different service. So you might, if you're in the fitness business, your target is people that want to be healthy, you might connect with your peers that offer, it might be, say, your fitness, maybe a spa where they offer, or a massage clinic. So maybe a massage clinic and a fitness business connect and say, hey, well, you send people my way and I'll send people your way. You can even do cross promotions within that to help get in front of, the prospecting, get in front of those prospects. You could also, even if you're a franchisor, connect with franchisors that have a similar target as you and say, hey, if you have any leads that seem like a good fit, but then end up not going forward and you don't think they're ever going to with your brand, would you be up for connecting them with us or letting us know who they are so we can sort of start following them on social media? Or if you are, say, an emerging franchisor and you get a lot of prospects where you're turning them away because the people are looking for something more proven and you're just not comfortable with, these people being able to perform in such a sort of entrepreneurial startup franchise, you could find a franchisor that's more established and say, hey, do you ever get leads of people who are just a little too entrepreneurial because your systems are so developed that you could send me and I'll send you my leads that are looking for something more proven? I guess you might be thinking that, you're helping a competitor, but if you can find a brand that, somebody in a slightly different industry, but very similar, then it's not necessarily helping the competition, but rather each other. And the value that you get from that is probably going to be so much more. And I do believe in abundance and being more collaborative than competitive anyway. So if you are, worried about that, that's maybe another conversation we need to have another day. So, all right. Hopefully this got your wheels turning and you're starting to think about taking some action. At AC Inc., one of our core values and probably the favorite one is action equals growth. In order to achieve our goals, we need to stop thinking about them and take action. We don't let ourselves overthink our actions because we believe that doing something is better than doing nothing. And by doing, we're going to get clarity. By doing, we're going to figure out what works or what doesn't. But sitting around thinking about it, we could end up with analysis paralysis. So on that note, I really encourage you to pick 2 things that really resonated with you in this list or that came to mind for you that just sort of triggered as a result of listening today, and go right now into your calendar and block out some time to do the action steps required to put this into action. So for example, if you want to custom reach out to 3 old or cold leads, whatever you call them, per day, go and block out 20 minutes in your calendar, ideally in the earlier part of the day. So it's before you get bogged down with fighting the fires of the day and, people coming at you. Put in 20 minutes in your calendar every day where you spend that 20 minutes reaching out to old leads with those custom emails. Or maybe you like the idea of hosting some roundtables to bring your audience together and get them collaborating and being that person that provides that platform. If that's the case, book a time in your calendar right now to brainstorm the topics that you could propose and brainstorm how you're going to reach out to invite people. And maybe even go so far as to book a time right now when you'll host that first roundtable so that it will force you to start taking action because you've got a deadline. So you'll start taking action towards making it happen. Again, don't overthink this. You will learn by doing. The worst case scenario is if it doesn't work out, people aren't going to think you're a moron probably. They're probably just going to say, well, it wasn't that great. And in that case, you can reach out to them and say, hey, it was our first time. We've learned a bunch of things. We're going to try it differently. Would you be open to checking out our new and improved version? There's always a way that you can figure out how to move forward after that kind of thing happens. But I really believe that if you are excited about the idea, it won't bomb and you'll be so happy that you did something rather than sitting around thinking and not doing something. Now, before you go too far, I would absolutely love to know what action this inspired you to take. So if you caught this on social media, let's spark up a conversation in the comments and share what step or steps this inspired you to take in the comments. And by doing this, you will be stepping up as a leader and influencing others to take action towards their goals. So don't forget, if you need any help with any of these ideas, reach out to us. My rockstar team and I are ready to help you get to your why so that you can have the life that you've always dreamed of living. You can email me at angelacote.com and we'll set up a call. Okay, that's it for today. Now go be awesome.